Hi, could you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, my name is Vicki Fraser. I am the creator and monster builder of this monster rug.
And tell us a little bit about the California Rug Project.
It started when I was 5 years old, riding in the backseat of my dad's car. He was a construction engineer, and we went all over the state building highways and dams back in the 50s. And then we went to other states and then around the world. And as I grew up in the Central Valley, and I found that I loved the Golden Hills, I wanted to get out of the car and run up the hill and run my hands over the soft golden grasses. And that gave me a desire to recreate those golden hills. And that's what I've done. It's a dream come true.
And how long have you been working on this project?
This is 18 years now. It started out, I was hoping to get the project done in 4 years. And 18 years later, I'm on the last 2 months.
And what exactly does the rug detail about California?
The main object of the rug is to spell out the state of the state. So we have, as in almost all Oriental rugs, we have statements or images that people can interpret, either the way they interpret or the way the weaver intended the interpretation. And this is a rug about the state of the state. So we have negative statements in the rug and positive.
Could you illustrate a couple of those?
I sure can. You see the tufts right here?
Yes.
That is Angora, plucked from my Angora bunny and spun and dyed in tea to make it look brown, and that is representing the smog in the Central Valley.
Ah,
That's one of the very strong negative statements. The rest of the central field of the rug is encompassing both the valleys to make up the Central Valley. And it illustrates and represents the abundance of the valley and how important and how fragile it is.
And what was your driving purpose for taking on such a great project? And could you tell us a little bit about, exactly how the rug is made and what you've used, the fibers and the dyes, etc. A little bit about, the makeup of the rug.
Okay. I started out as a needlewoman. I did a lot of cross-stitch embroidery, etc. And I lived in London for a while. And while I was in London, I learned how to be an Oriental rug restorer, which is very close to what I'm doing right now in laying in the freeways. I'm needle weaving. However, the rug is made in the Oriental tradition. It is called a knotted pile rug. It's a 5,000-year-old technique. This is exactly like the Patrick rug that is in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. I use a Turkish knot. I use a Persian depressed warp. I use a Navajo shed system. And the contour cutting comes from the Tibetan and Chinese contour cut rugs.
So you've really included a lot of facets of rug making from across the globe.
Yes, this is very California.
Aha! And tell me, how did you manage to create such vibrant colors?
The colors are all natural dyes. I use 3 main colors. The red is from the madder root. The yellow is from the weld, and that is Rosetta luteola. The madder is Rubia tinctorum, and the blue is indigo. I have other reds like cochineal. I have other yellows like Osage orange, and very few other blues. Very few. Indigo is the main blue. So insofar as the fibers of the rug, the fibers are all California. That was an early criteria. Because I was able to obtain 10 pounds of California milled cotton from a mill in Fresno, that started me off, and I spent 3 years spinning the first 10 pounds. of cotton, and that made up the warp of the rug. I also wanted to use that same cotton for the weft, so eventually I got another 10 pounds and spun the weft of the rug. The pile is mostly sheep's wool. I figure there are anywhere from 150 to 200 fleeces involved. Fleeces are processed in so far as they're laid out, they're skirted, they're sectioned, they're washed, the sections are dried, then I tease the sections and spin the sections. There's some of the wool over there. The wool is then mordanted for 28 days. That's an ancient recipe that I learned from a wonderful woman in Cambridge in England. She taught me about mordanting in the ancient ways, so mordant for 28 days. All of the skeins, all of the wool in the rug except for the indigo has been mordanted for 28 days. The madder is another ancient recipe that is 8 days at a very low temperature. And that makes a really solid madder that will sometimes get darker over years instead of fade away. And then the yellow is the fastest plant that there is, the weld plant. Also yellow is the easiest to fade, the first to fade. So being the major border of the rug is the Golden Hills, the rug has to be covered because the yellow does fade after a while. Otherwise, the natural colors are the most wonderful, softest, and they develop over time to be even more rich and wonderful.
And the rug, it's a large piece. Could you tell us exactly the size?
The size is 5 feet wide and 15 feet tall. The reason for that size is that I wanted to make a rug that was 3 times taller than it is wide to represent the size of the state, which is about that.
And how much does it weigh?
David just carried it in from the other studio a few days ago, and he thinks the rug weighs not more than about 75 pounds.
Oh, okay. And what will happen to the rug once you have completed? You seem to be on the last quadrant there, and you're telling me that this is the freeway system that you are putting in.
Yes, right at the beginning of the project, we overlooked this major detail, which is the Los Angeles freeway system. We have a nice San Francisco Bay freeway system, and we needed to have the Los Angeles freeway system. This is another major statement in the rug to represent the fact that this state has only cars and no trains, no public transport. There's nothing in the rug that reflects anything other than the automobile.
So Vicki, how long have you actually been working on the rug so far?
Well, I spent 3 years spinning the warp. Then my son built the loom, and we warped up the loom in 2 weeks. The rug was on the loom for 10 years, and it has been off the loom since 2007, where it was resting and I was carving the pile. That took quite a while. And then decided to put the freeway system together in cartoon form on the computer, and have been working on the freeways ever since.
So 10 years, 15 years, 20? 18 years.
18 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 1994 is when I started spinning it.
Great. And what is your goal, or what would you like to see happen to the rug once it's completed?
My original vision was to have the rug be on the floor of the state capitol rotunda, where legislators and lobbyists could walk across it and remember what they're there for, to better the place that we live in. It's also going to be important to take the rug on the road to start with. I want to show it to guilds, museums, and rug societies. I'm particularly interested in having the rug go to Washington, D.C., to the Textile Museum, and the wonderful Haji Baba Society in New York City. I also want to take the rug across the water to the Victoria and Albert in London, and that's where my other son lives.
Great. And how much of the work have you done here at the Mendocino Art Center, here in the incredible weaving room here?
The rug began its life in the Jenny studio next door, and that's where I spent the 3 years spinning the cotton. Then my son built the loom out here on the patio, and we set the loom up here in the weaving studio, and it spent its first, I believe, 2 years, 3 years here in the weaving studio. And then we moved the loom to Elk, where I lived for a while. Then the loom was moved to the Zaka house on Main Street in Mendocino, where I looked after Jenny Zaka, and her daughter Lucia let me stay on with the rug until it came off the loom in 2007.
Great. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
joining us. We wish you the best of luck with this project, and I hope that the rug gets to be seen by as many people in and out of the state of California as possible.
Me too. Thank you.
You're welcome.